What is up, addicts? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we are going to be breaking down Davante Adams' fantasy outlook for 2020, going over his potential range of outcomes, and giving you guys confidence in taking Davante Adams early in your drafts. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one, and let's get into it. Now, Davante Adams came in last year with high expectations, started the year off a little slow, finally boomed in week 4, and then went down with turf toe towards the end of the game, missed a quarter of the season, and that left a little bit of a bad taste in the mouth of drafters, but hasn't really done much to actually suppress his ADP. Finished last year with 83 receptions, just shy of 1,000 receiving yards, but the biggest regression came in terms of his total touchdowns, hitting only 5 touchdowns after hitting double digits the previous year. Finished with 212.7 fantasy points, still finished as a wide receiver too, even though missed the quarter of the season. But the more relevant number here is that 17.7 fantasy points per game, which was 6th most at the position. Now, last year, again, obviously, as we mentioned, coming out a little bit slow. Did have a good game against Minnesota, but 2 games where he didn't even eclipse 10 points, which, 10 points was a pretty standard floor for Davante Adams in the previous year, and then has that massive 15 target, 10 reception for 180-yard game against Philadelphia, and that is the game where he unfortunately suffered the turf toe injury, but goes until week 12 before he finally sees his first touchdown, and then we started to see his touchdown totals tick back up into what you expected from him. We also saw that in the playoffs continuing on, so not worried about Davante Adams touchdowns. That should regress back to normal. There's not really anyone else competing for red zone targets at this point, other than maybe Aaron Jones, or if Jay Sternberger ends up being a massively good tight end for the offensive scheme that Matt LaFleur wants to run. I'm not nearly as worried about that touchdown total staying down. So Davante Adams' upside is massive. Obviously, you can see the type of dominance that he can provide week in and week out. And if it wasn't for the ridiculous season that Michael Thomas put up last year, there'd definitely be some room to put Davante Adams into that number 1 wide receiver spot. And I think the argument can still be made. Like, let's just pause for a second and hash that out. So obviously, Michael Thomas last year put up a historic year, and we do expect him to continue to play well, but they do add Emmanuel Sanders. It's another year older for Drew Brees, likely his last season, and at any point with a quarterback, you can hit a cliff. So while we're not projecting that for Drew Brees, there is a range of outcomes where Drew Brees is not able to provide the same quality of target that Michael Thomas is used to seeing. And then again, adding Emmanuel Sanders, having a healthy Alvin Kamara could siphon away some of that upside, whereas who else is Aaron Rodgers throwing to? Davante Adams is the only guy in town, and it shows just by looking at that ridiculous target count from week 4 onwards. He only had 1 game where he didn't have double-digit targets. From a PPR standpoint, this is the kind of floor-ceiling combination that is the only reason you need this kind of a upside to warrant taking a receiver over a running back in the first round this year. But I understand fully why there's a reason to take a guy like Davante Adams. If you can get him in the back half of the second round and still be able to couple him with a running back 1 with upside, if you could start your draft with Davante Adams and Miles Sanders, or Davante Adams, Kenyon Drake, Davante Adams, and Nick Chubb, like, that is a really solid start, and I'm fully on board with that this year. So last year, finished with a 30.3% target share. That is 3rd best amongst receivers. Again, what argument can you make that that's going to go down? Finished with a 39.7% red zone target share, which was number 1 in the NFL. So that, again, shows you right there the touchdowns that he received last year, which was only 37th most amongst receivers of 5. That's going to go back up. If he continues seeing a 40% target share in the red zone, there's no way he doesn't see that regress positively, and I would expect it to be above 10 again. Yards per pass route, 2.87, so that's 5th best in the NFL. 33.7% dominator rating. We just talked about Aaron Jones seeing a 35% dominator rating. So between Aaron Jones and Davante Adams, these guys are taking up pretty much the entirety of the team's total yards and total touchdowns. He saw a 7.58 target accuracy rating, which is number 6, kind of going back to our Aaron Rodgers video, showing that while he's definitely become a little bit more erratic and doesn't have the same consistency that he used to have, he still has the ability to be the Aaron Rodgers that we've used to see, that we're used to seeing, and we'll just hope that it can be a little bit more consistent this year. He finished with 0.61 fantasy points per pass route, which was number 4 in the NFL, and considering the amount of routes that he participated in last year, that's absolutely insane. And he did that playing, I mean, turf toe is something that even though he came back after 4 weeks, he was still dealing with pain for most of the year. So being able to still be as efficient as he was playing with turf toe, I mean, we saw, going back here real quick, the game against the Chargers was his first game back. We expected that to be a down week for him, but then he's already right up to getting over 100 yards the next week against Carolina. San Francisco was another down game. That was just a gross game in general. The Packers kept getting walloped by San Francisco, but you see, even towards the end of the year, as he became more healthy, becoming more consistent, getting closer to that 100-yard mark every single week, and then that carried on into the playoffs as well. So last year from weeks 10 to 17, which is pretty much taking out that Chargers game where he didn't look like his old self, he finished with 19.8 fantasy points per game, which was number 2. It's still 4 points off of where Michael Thomas finished. I mean, we have to recognize the craziness that Michael Thomas put up, but still putting up nearly 20 fantasy points per game. It totally makes sense to take Davante Adams in the first round. I wouldn't take him over, well, you guys can just check out my rankings to see who I would or wouldn't take him over. But overall, I love Davante Adams this year, and I think that there's a very reasonable shot that he finishes as the number 1 wide receiver. Right now we have him projected for 101 receptions, 1,257 receiving yards, and 11 total touchdowns. But, I mean, if this defense regresses a good bit and Aaron Rodgers is given the keys to the offense again and is allowed to go ham, and they're not able to run the ball nearly as much as they were able to last year, I mean, Davante Adams could just be absolutely insane. We could see Michael Thomas level numbers just, again, based on the fact that who else is Aaron Rodgers going to freaking throw to in this offense. So absolutely love the upside of Davante Adams this year. Definitely worth a first-round pick. What say you guys? Hit me up in the comment section below with any thoughts or questions. And make sure you hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. We're done with the Packers for now. We might come back and do an Allen Lazard video later if you guys want to see one. But we're going to jump over to the Panthers and talk about their fantasy outlook for 2020 next. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.